But we're going to go over some of the prospects that either helped their stock or hurt their stock. I did include some fallers in this week of college football. But again, I'll go over it when we get there. Take it with a grain of salt. These guys could definitely bounce back after a lackluster week one. It is week one. So, and take it with a grain of salt. Let's go ahead, get into the stock report, starting with Kyle Monangai. Hell yeah. We're not getting into the Saturday games yet. I want to go over a few of the Thursday and Friday games. And Monangai against Howard played a good game, as he should. 19 carries for 165 yards. Had a tutty in there as well. He ended up having 6 forced missed tackles. Didn't do much in the receiving game. Had a reception for, I think, all of 0 yards. But that's fine. Monangai made my top 10 running backs at the beginning of the year for that are draft eligible. And I'm a big fan of Monangai. I don't know what it is in the water. They're Rutgers. These guys just run hard and run violent. And I just love that style. I really, really do. Monangai, he's got a little bit of that Isaiah Pachenko in him, where it's like, I don't think I want to tackle this guy, because I think he's going to hurt me. And hurt you, he will. Hurt you, he freaking will, man. He gets low. He shows good, just good vision, as well as that was on display in the Howard game. Might not have the necessary home run speed, and obviously going to be limited in the passing game. It's kind of probably what doesn't put him over the top. But he did have a long of 39 yards, so you love to see it. You love to see it. Before we continue with today's video, guys, football is back. The NFL returns this weekend, and Underdog Fantasy has you covered. Not only if you sign up using promo code BROSHMO will they match your first deposit up to $250, but they have a ton of specials for this weekend's festivities. For instance, they have a free pick in the form of Travis Kelce, over or under 0.5 yards. They even have a Thursday night kickoff special where you can get 30% profit boost if you hit. Hell yeah. And I mean, the folks at Underdog, they're after my own heart, as they got college football covered, as well as they got discount for the dogs. Let's go. So take advantage of these specials currently going on at Underdog Fantasy. And if it's your first time signing up, use promo code BROSHMO to take advantage of them matching your first deposit up to $250. But as always, bet responsibly, bet within your means. Let's move on to another running back, Terion Stewart, out of Bowling Green. He was a guy that I loved. He's a my guy. He is a my guy. He didn't make my top running backs list, I think, for good reason. There's some athletic deficiencies there. But in all honesty, at 5'9", 225 pounds, he's a power back. He knows it, and he's a little shiftier than you would expect. He reminds me of like LeGarrette Blount light. That doesn't sound right. Let's go with a quasi LeGarrette Blount. But he had a big game against Fordham, which, hey, you're supposed to have a big game, but it was very impressive. He ends up going for 14 carries for 159 yards, 3 tutties. Another guy that didn't do anything in the pass game, not that he needed to, but had 11 forced missed tackles. Yards after contact, by the way, 9.79. Golly. Ooh, get me a fan. It's getting hot in here. Jeez, that's an insane stat. And it's not like, well, that would mean it was against a team like Fordham. It is what it is. This dude last year, his forced miss, like his yards after contact, pull it up real quick, 4.81. Hella good. His missed tackle rate was insane. On top of that, 0.63. You're good with a 0.31. And he doubled that. He was like, yeah, no, I'm really good at forcing missed tackles. Like, he's got the bowling ball build. He shows good vision. He's got actually a pretty good burst. He's sneaky good athlete. It's just rarely used in the passing game, kind of is what it is. And he's not going to have the long field speed or quicks, but he just is good back, which probably makes him a day 3 back, unfortunately. But he is definitely my guy. I'm a big fan. Let's move to the defense. Talk about Wake Forest, Jasheen Davis. I feel like a guy no one really talks about, man. Like last year, he kind of got lost in the draft process, but he had a good year. 46 pressures, 8 sacks. And he started the year really good against North Carolina A&T. 6 pressures, had a sack. Pass rush win rate of 21.7%. Hell yes, sign me up. 6'3", 259 pounds. Honestly, kind of the biggest gripe I have with him is he's a guy that he gets by as a pass rusher. Not necessarily, like, he's not a guy with a lot of pass rush moves or necessarily a pass rush game plan, but he gets by on sheer grit, his motor, and just the violence that he plays with. And I mean violence. He probably is like an early day 3 pick, whether that's 4th or 5th round as it stands. But like the play strength's really good. The violence he plays with is really good. He's got a good first step. He plays with active hands. Again, the big motor, but doesn't have ideal length. Doesn't really have a pass rush game plan. Doesn't have many pass rush tools. Needs to get better as a run defender, but he looked good in this game with, I think he ended up having around like 4 defensive stops. Those are basically tackles that result in either a negative loss or no gain. So I'm glad they looked good in a relatively cupcake matchup. Let's see how it looks during actual conference play. Everybody loves the NFL draft, and I know you want to be familiar with every potential prospect that your team may draft. So I got good news for you. My draft guide is available for purchase. It is good throughout the entire draft cycle, and it updates through the season regularly. You'll get my current evals and rankings on hundreds of different players with player backgrounds and analytics. It also contains combine and pro day numbers, as well as my notes from the Senior and Shrine Bowl. You can purchase it for a one-time payment of $30 on PayPal, Venmo, and now I have the Cash App. Follow the link in the description and be sure to include your email because it is a Google spreadsheet. That is how I share it with you. So please don't make me hunt down your email. Just don't do it. Anywho, it's a great purchase and it's a great way to support the channel. We're gonna keep the good vibes rolling. We're gonna talk about Shedeur Sanders, and honestly, I'm gonna talk about a few quarterbacks here. But let's start with Shedeur, as he had one of the earlier games. He ends up helping Colorado beat North Dakota State. Ends up winning that game. It was like 31-26. Took North Dakota State plus 9.5. Hit my parlay this week, my little 4-legger, so I felt really good about that. But he looked good, man. He looked good. He has probably the best processor in the class. Like Beck's right up there with him. I think him and Beck have a relatively similar arm strength and very close in arm talent. I do think Shedeur probably throws with a little bit better touch. And like some of the bigger gripes that I have with Shedeur, honestly, it's the pocket poise and the pass protection was much better. It was. And you definitely saw him look more comfortable in the pocket than he did last year when that offensive line was like booty cheeks. And when that happens, when you can't trust your offensive line, there will be times where you just vacate clean pockets, even though the pressure's not there. It's almost phantom pressure just because you expect your offensive line to let you down. So you're already feeling like you're going to have to go make a play. This time around, it definitely looks like he has faith in the offensive line, and the offensive line kind of delivered. When it comes to run blocking, neither here or there. They got some work to do, but at least as when it comes to the pass protection, it was good. He ends up throwing for over 440 yards, had 4 tutties, did have an interception. I wouldn't necessarily put the pick on him. I thought he had a really good game, had a adjusted completion percentage of 84.4%. He showed all the things you liked. He did. Apparently, Gojo's a big Shedeur fan. But while we're here, I do want to mention Beck. I think Beck had a good game too. Did it blow your pants off? No, it did. But it was like, hey, let's figure it out on offense. Let's try to play mistake-free. And they did. He ended up figuring it out. I'm not going to say he was like all his passes were on time. I'm not going to say the ball placement was necessarily perfect. But he ran that offense really well in the second half. And I imagine as he develops that chemistry a bit more with some of his guys, whether it's like Dylan Bell, Kobe Young, I imagine that's going to be better because he is throwing to some new targets this year outside of like Arian Smith and Lovett. He is throwing to some new targets. All right, let's keep this sucker rolling as we're going to now get to the Sunday games. Now let's talk about Cam freaking Ward. Was it perfect? Hell no. It was not perfect. I didn't like the pocket poise. This guy was floating backwards in the pocket. He was escaping the pocket when he honestly didn't really have to at sometimes. And he would like, again, Mahomes made it popular. Just kind of like, and this is a total like Madden thing to do where you just keep dropping back and dropping back and dropping back and dropping back, trying to escape and flee pressure. That ain't going to work. That ain't a consistent way to manage the pocket. I did say that Miami, they kind of saw some of the poise isn't just there yet. We want him to kind of work within the structure. We want him to throw from a clean pocket. So they started to scheme up some moving pockets for him. But he was definitely a lot more comfortable in the second half. And that was best Cam Ward, second half. He ends up throwing for over 380 yards, had 3 tutties, did have the ugly pick, basically rolled out of the pocket, threw across his body. One of the big things is I do think he throws with a bit of an ego sometimes, where he's confident he can make any and every throw. But he cleaned it up, man. He really did clean it up. Not even necessarily in the second half, but even late into the second quarter during that final drive. Man played a really, really good game. Adjusted completion percentage of 88%. It's just a ludicrous number. 4 big-time throws. Early on, he was winning with his legs. Florida tried to take that away. And you could tell that he definitely struggled early on with that. You could definitely tell when it was like, oh, wow, they're only bringing 3. They're dropping 8. They got spies on me. How the hell am I going to orchestrate this? How am I going to get out of this? I don't see anyone open. Am I going to really force a throw here? Like, oh. But he did a good job, man. I thought he did a good job. Let's see how the rest of the season goes. Already probably early favorite for the Heisman based on that performance. It was very, very encouraging from Cam Ward. I do want to give a shout out to Drew Aller. Was it perfect for him? It was pretty close to perfect. He had some really nice throws, some good back shoulders, the timing, the anticipation on some of those plays. Some of those passes were nuts. I think it was that the touchdown pass before halftime. That where he throws it to a spot in the end zone when his receiver is just getting to the 5-yard line. That's anticipation. Like, oh, here's the landmark. Here's where my receiver needs to be. He just needs to beat the defender there. And he did. So it was a good showing. I think we're going to see Because we already know with Drew Aller, the tools, the physical, the athletic tools. Can he hone it in? This was a promising start. He's got the upside of a first rounder. He's got an upside. This quarterback class has the chance to be sexy. You just look at those top options with Shedeur and Beck, and you're like, okay, maybe not the biggest arms, but golly, just their processors, how they run the offense. You just love it. It gives an NFL feel. Might not, for me, it's not top 10, though. I think it could get close. It's definitely going to be in that region. It's going to be in that kind of mid first round for me. But guys like Ward and Aller, I think, have a little extra stink where they can maybe be top 10 players. I think for now, I want to keep them maybe in that second round area. Kind of wait and see. Quinn Ewers, he had one interception, one bad decision, but outside of that, he played really, really good. Then Archie came in and played really, really good. But let's keep this sucker rolling. Let's keep moving. Let's talk about some record-breaking performances. Ashton Jeanty. Holy freaking moly. He's my running back one. He's the only running back I got a first-round grade on. And if you're not new to the channel, you know me. You know me not liking running backs in the first round. Bijan is like, I think Saquon and Bijan were the only first-round running backs that I've had, I guess, since Saquon's draft. Let's go with that. Those were the only two. Outside of that, I didn't have Najee. I didn't have Etienne. I didn't have Javante. I didn't have Gibbs. I didn't have Walker. I didn't have Brees. I didn't have those guys in the first. They were all top 50. Don't get me wrong. But for me, it was like, I looked at it and was like, I'll take those guys first half of the second round. For me, you gotta be something special. I think Jeanty's special. He ends up going 20 carries for 267 yards and 6 touchdowns. And let me let you know. And he couldn't get going in the passing game. He had 3 receptions, went for 4 yards, is what it is. But we know he's got the pass catching upside. But the dude had 11 forced missed tackles on those 20 carries. His yards after contact, 8.05. Golly gee, light up the candles, turn on some Barry White. Let's dim the lights. Let's have a little fun. That's the type of running Jeanty does. This guy's stop-start ability, his quicks, his balance, it's just all next level. This cat had a forced missed tackle rate last year of 0.38. His yards after contact, 4.52, is a ludicrous number. It's absolutely ludicrous. And if he cleans up on the fumbles, yeah, I think he for sure should be a first-round pick. I think he's special like that. Record-breaking performance for him there against Georgia Southern. Great showing from Jeanty. But while we're talking about record-breaking performances, we gotta talk about Tetairoa McMillan. 10 receptions, 304 yards, and 4 touchdowns. That's a great way to start the year. This is against New Mexico. He ends up just having a ludicrous game. I think he had 5 forced missed tackles as well. Didn't have a drop. Love the sure hands. Showing, hey, I'm more than this guy that can just go up and reel in the pass. And let's not act like it was perfect. The contested catch numbers were a bit of a letdown. He was 1 of 5 on contested catch opportunities. We're more used to this guy being a 50-50 ball guy. I'm sure that number will go up a little bit later. But, and I do say but, I love seeing the after the catch. I really, really do. Last year, what was his forced missed tackle rate? 13. Not rate, but he had 13 forced missed tackles on 90 receptions. He's already on pace to crush that. He's going to make a great case for wide receiver 1. It's going to be up there with Luther Burden, who had a great game. It's going to be up there potentially with Travis Hunter, which I know people were losing their mind. Oh my gosh, Travis Hunter had such a phenomenal game. It's against North Dakota State. And this isn't your dad's North Dakota State who used to run the FBS. It's not. But it was a great game. I'm not going to take that away from him. The dude's quick. He's fast. He's got good long speed. He had 2 forced missed tackles on those 7 receptions. Ended up going for 3 tutties, again, all against North Dakota State. We're gonna see Isaiah Bond maybe throw his hat into the race there, but I think Tetairoa McMillan probably has the best. Like him and I would start to lean like maybe McMillan as the best chance of being wide receiver 1. People do have some questions when it comes to Burden. I don't necessarily have those same questions, but because I'm just a stand for Burden. But yeah, guess what, guys? Wide receiver class. I know last year you felt like you got spoiled. Fun fact, it's good again. It's good again. All right, let's talk about some of the downers. Mansoor Delane. I expect him to get better as the year goes on, but this wasn't the performance you wanted to see. I have him as a top 50 prospect. I expect him to get better as the year goes. Maybe he just had some of those week 1 yips. He had a case of the yips, but it wasn't a great showing for the corner, the 6'1", 187 corner. Coming into the year, we were like, he needs better anticipation. Feels like he could be a tick late. Want to see more ball skills from someone with his build and how athletically gifted he is. And we did not see that. He ends up allowing 5 receptions on 7 targets for 102 yards and a tutty. Didn't get his hand on the ball once. Did have a pressure in this game. Hey, there you go. But also missed tackle. Because keep in mind, this guy is a hard hitter. It's not surprising they want to maybe utilize him a bit more around the line of scrimmage. He ended up having, I think, 4 tackles on the day. Had a defensive stop, had the pressure. And again, with his type of tackling style, you're going to have to live with a few forced missed tackles, but I'm more concerned about the coverage. Maybe we're just a little too early on Delane, as we maybe need to let him kind of work out some of the kinks in his game. As again, wasn't a great showing against Vandy. It just wasn't. And let's talk about an upper here. Josaiah Stewart. Freaking phenomenal outing against Fresno State. 4 pressures, 2 sacks, had 6 defensive stops. He's like, yeah, you may look at that 240 and think I'm undersized because, well, I kind of am. I'm 6'1". My length might not be great. But I'll get after it against the run. 6 defensive stops. Just a great number. 50% pass rush win rate. Ludicrous. This guy won on half of his defense or his pass rushing snaps. That's utterly insane. It's just insane to the membrane. Now, I think he's still in that early day 3 area, but he has a chance to maybe sneak into that day 2 discussion. Because he was that talented coming from Coastal Carolina. Initially, he joined Michigan last year and he was in the rotation. Last year, he ended up having 29 pressures and 6 sacks. I mean, the win rate was still really good with him, with 24.4% true pass rush win rate. Keep in mind, true just takes out RPOs, play action. It's like the truest form of, okay, this is just like a drop back pass, go out and get after it. Just takes away the influence of the run game. But he's a player that I think I'm gonna like, man. I think he might give people some that Muhammad Kamara vibes from last year, the Colorado State player that got drafted. I think it was the 5th round. He ended up 5th or 4th. He ends up going to the Miami Dolphins. But he's got the burst. He's got the bend. He's got that dog in him. Plays with a big motor. Okay, size. Not necessarily the play strength is a concern with him. It's just at that size, you'll just have a noticeable lack of play strength just by virtue of that. But man, I think I'm gonna be in on him. Let's see how he plays against Texas. See how he does against the Longhorns this week. And we're gonna end the list on a downer because hey, that's real life. That's the real world. What can I say? It's Connor Weigman. Maybe we should have waited and seen before people hopped on the Weigman train. Not to say I was that guy. He's QB8. I had a 4th round grade. I did want to come back and see him perform healthy this season, and it was ugly. Ends up going 12 of 30 for only 100 yards and 2 interceptions. An adjusted completion percentage of 46.4%. He was missing everywhere. It was high. It was low. It was out in front. Had a couple of bad decisions. Had many bad decisions. Ended up having 3 turnover-worthy plays. It just wasn't good. It wasn't good. And he wasn't comfortable in the pocket. This was worse than anything we saw from him the last couple of years. Because I think he ended up starting the last 4 or 5 his freshman year. He started the first 4 last year before the injury. His average time to throw? 3.67. You can't hold on to the ball that long. Maybe you could get away with that if you're like Anthony Richardson or Justin Fields or Caleb Williams. But Weigman, you can't get away with that. I know he's a better athlete than you think, but he's not that good of an athlete to get away with holding on the ball that long. To be fair, he faced a really good defense. His receivers were not getting open. That led to him holding on to the ball a little longer than he should have. Now, there's no denying, let's not overreact here. I mean, I know some people are going to overreact. For me, I already had a 4th round grade on him. So for me, it's like, okay, yeah, I can sit here, continue to have a 4th round grade on him, wait and see how he does the remainder of the year. He is another guy with more years, I think another year of an eligibility. Yeah, he has, at the very least, I think he has 1 more year of eligibility. Probably 2, if I'm being honest. But the anticipation, it wasn't just he was late, he was inaccurate. Something I did notice, likes to throw from a shaky base. And I was like, that'll lead to you being inaccurate. And in this game, it was the case. He needs a little bit more experience, I will say. I did like that he wasn't eating hits, unlike Riley Leonard, who just loves eating contact. Weigman was smart with his body. That was kind of some of the stuff I was like, I didn't like about Weigman. Is he going to be injury prone because he just doesn't know how to slide? That he unnecessarily puts his body at harm? That is something that, at least in this game, he did a good job of, but not a great showing. I don't think it was a great showing for Riley Leonard, but fun fact, I wasn't that high on Riley Leonard either. So it is what it is. But let me know who were some of your favorite prospects this week in college football. I can't cover them all. I try to give you some of the guys that caught my eye for good or for bad. But I'm not going to talk. I can't talk about all of them, or else this is going to be like a 3-hour stream, a 3-hour video. But let me know who were some of your favorites in the comment section below. If you want more draft content, of course, I got more draft content. Just check the channel.